At the time of this recording, Drake dropped what seems to be his last diss track towards Kendrick, Hard Part 6. Now, it's a decent track, but I think most of us have picked the winner already. Say OV ho! I believe Kendrick versus Drake will go down as one of the greatest rap battles of all time. We got like 6 or 7 tracks over the past like month and a half from two titans in the game, and that's something that's I don't think ever happened and probably may not happen again. Now, for this video, I'm not gonna go down the history between these two and review each song because there's channels that have done that already and channels that probably will do that and probably will do it better than me. What I do want to do though is talk about what this beef meant for hip hop overall. What's good, y'all? My name is Volsi. I do content on self-reflection and society. Please follow for more, and I appreciate all the support. The entire Kendrick versus Drake battle put the hip-hop world into two main camps. Either you felt Drake was winning, or you thought Kendrick was winning. Most of the hip-hop world are fans of both, but still, people still tend to lean towards one side or the other. Now, what I noticed in the Kendrick camp, there seems to be a large swath of people who are taking this beef extremely seriously. Like, they made content after content and they really were pulling for Kendrick to win. A lot of them were acting like the winner of this beef would basically decide the fate and the soul of hip hop going forward. And if you think about it, they really weren't that far off. Now, full disclosure, this isn't an accurate analysis. I didn't do any study on this. I didn't do any scientific surveys. This is just from personal observation I'm seeing from the fan bases. Now, to get an understanding of everything I'm talking about, we need to clear up a few things. The fan base who took this as the battle of the soul of hip hop period, the roots of what hip hop are, and how exactly and Drake play into all this. Let's go ahead and start with the fan bases. Now, there are two main features that I see when it comes to fans of Kendrick in contrast to fans of Drake. Number one, fans of Kendrick tend to skew older. From what I've seen, Kendrick fans are usually older millennials, older Gen Z, folks around my age group. Now, that doesn't mean that Drake doesn't have any of these fans. There are plenty, but his fans tend to skew more towards the younger side, just starting around in college, early to mid 20s, around that age. Now, again, Drake does have plenty of older fans, but from what I've seen, the majority of them tend to skew on the younger side. And there's nothing really wrong with that. Young people keep you relevant. Now, the second thing that I noticed about Kendrick fans is they tend to have a sense of what people in the academic world called ivory towerism. Essentially, they're the type to not only geek out on all the double meanings and messages in his music, but also be kind of smug that everyone isn't, getting it. J. Cole fans have this in abundance as well. I know because I am a J. Cole fan. Now, that doesn't mean that Drake doesn't have bars or meaning in his music. He clearly does. The boy can rap. I'm a fan. But his lyrics tend to skew on the more memorable catchphrases, call and response, things like that. In contrast to Kendrick's, double and triple, quadruple meanings and opera type albums that he does. Now, this feature of ivory towerism, that goes across the age spectrum for all of Kendrick fans. Now, I want you to keep these two things in mind because they come important later. Let's move on to the roots of hip hop. Now, if you're a fan of hip hop and know its history, you will know that it started in the South Bronx. DJ Kool Herc at parties used to create a technique where the break beats were mixed together to form one sound. He put emphasis on the MC. He did the whole breakdancing thing or gave breakdancing their names, etc., etc. All that is well known even by the most casual fans of hip hop. Now, as always, there's more to this story than meets the eye. Namely, what were the original DJs of hip hop using to mix these records? They were using music like gospel, soul, funk, disco, blues, R&B. All these different music genres had one particular thing in common. They were all rooted in the social and political struggles of Black people, specifically African Americans. Yes, even disco. Even though that was mostly party music, it was essentially escapism from life issues if you actually listen to it. When hip hop first started, a lot of the music was basically that fun-loving, feel-good music. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm actually of the thought that we need more of that back in rap. But as the art form started to assert itself more and more as a music genre, you started to get records like The Message from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5. This is considered probably the first ever conscious rap record. And from there, basically the sky was the limit. Rap became full of social commentary. one of the most famous ones being Fight the Power. That song is actually still a rallying cry until this day. The reason I mention all this is to explain the social and political roots of hip hop. It was always rooted and grounded in the struggles of black people in America and was always critical of things like corporatism and inauthenticity. So what does this have to do with Kendrick and Drake? Well, Kendrick and Drake, for better or worse, represented two dichotomies within the world of rap. Kendrick seems to represent that old fight the power soul. Remember when I was telling you about the ivory towerism of his fan base? Much of that is rooted in this, basically. Quick side note, since I realized while editing that I forgot to mention this. Remember when I said that Kendrick fans tend to skew older, like older millennials and Gen Z? The reason that's important is because most of us grew up in the 90s and early 2000s. Back then, mainstream rap music was a lot more eclectic, and social commentary in the music was actually more mainstream. But there was a huge decline of that for at least 10 years, starting around 2002, 2003. Social commentary and rap wouldn't make a huge return to the mainstream until about 2012, when Kendrick and Cole started blowing up. And that's why I think the demographics of the fan bases look like what they look like. Anyway, let's continue. Kendrick not only speaks about the struggle in abundance, but he does so that has mainstream appeal. An example of that is his first hit, Swimming Pools. That song is literally about how peer pressure leads to alcohol abuse. It has a very, very deep message, but it was still a mainstream hit. He basically brought that old soul back into the mainstream of hip hop. Drake, on the other hand, represents more of what hip hop criticized in its early days: the corporate inauthenticity. As Kendrick mentioned in his last diss, Drake's image seems more put together than it is an authentic representation of who he actually is and where he came from. Now, I want to be clear with something. Drake is not an industry plant. Again, the boy can rap. He's talented and clearly has an ear for production. I mean, just listen to the background music that I'm using. This is fire, y'all. We can't deny it. And to be fair to Drake, this image of being put together by commercial interests, it isn't really his fault either. But what is his fault is his failure and even refusal to connect with that central root of hip hop culture: the black struggle. Now, lots of folks would say that this is kind of unfair to ask of Drake. I mean, Drake does have a black American father, but he grew up in Canada with a white Jewish mom. What would he know about the struggle, like, at all? And yeah, that is a good point. However, there is an unspoken rule of hip hop, and if you think about it, you would probably notice this as well. Now, FD Signifier already kind of explained this more in his Drake video himself, but essentially, every single artist who's ever been crowned the king or queen of rap has always, without fail, connected themselves to the black struggle. Jay-Z, Biggie, Tupac, Nas, Cube, Snoop, Juvie, Wayne, Scarface, T.I., Luda, Jeezy, even white rappers like Eminem. This isn't only men either. Female GOATs have as well. Lauryn Hill, Nicki, Kim, Trina, Missy, Brat, Eve, Foxy. This goes even beyond the solo acts. Group acts that have been considered the GOATs of rap have also connected themselves to the struggle. NWA, Bone Thugs, UGK, Outkast, 8-Ball MJG, 3-6, Bill Mob, Fugees, even G-Unit. Every single act that has ever been considered a GOAT of hip-hop music and integral to hip-hop culture has always, without fail, connected themselves to the struggle. All of them, except for Drake. Now, I also want y'all to notice something else. Every single person that I mentioned, all the acts that I mentioned, they've all done commercial music, they've all done party music, they've all done gangster music, all of it. And if you think about it, even these new subgenres of rap, such as drill, mumble rap, and SoundCloud, even going back to trap music, they've all connected themselves as well. For example, who were the biggest SoundCloud rappers back in the day? XXXTentacion and Kodak Black. They've definitely connected themselves to the struggle. I mean, Kodak called himself a project baby. Trap music definitely did. People like Gucci, Jeezy, and T.I. were at the forefront of trap music out of Atlanta, right? But even though trap music was all about the drug game, the entire point of trap music was about getting out the trap. That connected itself to the struggle as well. You can even name some new artists today that connect themselves to the struggle, even if they only do it one time. The fact of the matter is, They do it. Drake not only hasn't, he refuses to. And now we circle back to why that certain camp of Kendrick fans took this beef so seriously. Kendrick, Drake, and Cole have been the big three of rap for over a decade, so this clash was bound to happen. They've been sending subliminals at each other for the past 12 years now. Everybody was paying attention to this battle, not just the fans, but the entertainment industry as a whole. It was on the news, y'all. Basically, this means that whoever won this battle would be deciding how rap goes in the future. So when that camp of Kendrick fans were acting like this battle is for the soul of hip-hop, they weren't that far off. If Drake had won this battle, that will represent the severing of an essential root. Him winning this battle will symbolize not only to the fan base, but also to corporate interests, that hip-hop no longer has roots in the political and social struggles of black people, that you can basically piece together an inauthentic, commercially propped up act and make millions of dollars, but also the fans will actually call it real hip-hop. About 20 years ago, Nas came out with an album called Hip Hop Is Dead. I do think he jumped the gun a bit. I don't think hip-hop died back then, but for a lot of people viewing this battle, if Drake had won, Nas would have been vindicated. What we know as the original art form of hip-hop would have been dead. But that ain't happened. Say OVO, OVO. Anyway, let me wrap this up, man. I don't have any personal issue with Drake. I'm actually a fan, like I said, especially of his earlier work. I really wish we could get the Take Care era Drake again, because I think he was in his bag back then. And like I said, man, boy's talented. He could rap. He has an ear for production. One thing that we gotta do is we gotta give Drake his props, because he really did give Kendrick a run for his money. Family Matters is a strong track, y'all. We can't doubt that. And even as a Miami native, I could admit that he cooked Ross, y'all. But anyway, I hope Drake takes this and goes back to the drawing board, because he's been doing views from the six for the past, 5-6 years now. We need something else. Anyway, I just wanted to give that certain perspective. I hope everybody understands now. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Please follow me for more. Dark is beautiful, y'all. Peace.